The family thought their husky had turned on the mother. She was the one standing right there. She had no idea what was coming. It started the way the most dangerous things always start. Quietly, with something that looked like a quirk. Nova was a 4-year-old Siberian Husky. 52 pounds of controlled energy and ice blue eyes. A dog who had grown up alongside their 2 daughters. Camille, 7, and Sophie, 5. She had been with the family since she was 8 weeks old. She knew the sounds of the house. The school bus at 3:15. The particular creak of the back door. The way Sophie always dragged her feet coming down the stairs. She was, in the word their neighbor used, dialed in. On a Sunday afternoon in September, she started circling Renata. Renata was 39 years old. She was a high school chemistry teacher. She was standing in the kitchen, preparing dinner, with the radio on and Camille at the counter doing homework, when Nova came in from the living room and walked a tight circle around her. Then another. Then sat down between Renata and the girls and did not move. Renata told her to go lie down. Nova stood up, walked another circle around Renata's feet, and sat back down in the same spot. Her husband Dylan was in the backyard with Sophie. He came into the kitchen to find his dog performing a circuit around his wife's feet. Every 40 seconds while Renata stepped over her, trying to reach the stove, he laughed. He said, "She thinks you're about to have puppies." Renata did not laugh. She was a chemistry teacher. She had the particular trait of people trained to observe change and take it seriously, she said. She started doing this about an hour ago. She won't stop. By evening, the circling had intensified and added a component. Whenever the girls came close to Renata, Nova stepped between them, not aggressively. No sound, no teeth, no raised hackles. She simply inserted herself into the space between Renata and her daughters, body perpendicular, and waited until the girls stepped back. Camille thought it was a game. She tried to push past 3 times. The 3rd time, Nova pressed her body against the girl's legs with a deliberateness that was not aggression but was also not play. Dylan said, "She's confused. Probably hormones or something. Dogs have off days." Renata said nothing. She was paying attention. If you stay for stories about what animals sense before we do, you're in the right place. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. The next morning, Renata woke up with a headache. Not unusual. She was prone to them. She taught 6 periods a day in a room that got too much sun from the west. She took ibuprofen and went to school. By 2nd period, the headache was different. She made it through to lunch. In the faculty lounge, she sat down and noticed her left hand felt strange. Not numb exactly. Distant. She put it flat on the table and looked at it. Her colleague Marjorie asked if she was all right. Renata said she was. She was not. She drove herself to urgent care at 4:30, because that was the kind of woman she was. The kind who drives herself. Who waits until after school. Who says I'm probably fine. The physician at urgent care saw her blood pressure on the monitor and sent her directly to the hospital. Her systolic reading was 194. She had papilledema, swelling at the back of the eye, indicating elevated intracranial pressure. The neurology team was there within the hour. The diagnosis took 2 days. Idiopathic intracranial hypertension, a condition in which cerebrospinal fluid accumulates around the brain, creating pressure that builds slowly over days or weeks before presenting clinically. The headaches had been building for longer than she knew. The symptoms had been rising below the threshold of her own perception. Dr. Farouk Mensa, neurology, said to Dylan in the hallway. The pressure we're managing was building for at minimum 4 to 5 days before she presented. He said, if it had continued another 72 hours unaddressed, we'd be talking about a different outcome. For her vision, and potentially more. Has your dog ever done something that made no sense until it was the only thing that made sense? Tell us in the comments. These stories deserve to be heard. Dylan sat in the chair beside her bed for a long time and thought about Sunday. The circles around her feet. The positioning between Renata and the girls. The body language that looked like confusion and was not confusion. Intracranial pressure creates detectable changes in a person's physiological chemistry. In the compounds on the skin, in the exhaled breath, in the biochemical signature that a dog with 300 million olfactory receptors reads the way we read a face. Nova had been reading Renata's face for 4 days, in a language built from molecules rather than expression. And she had understood something before Renata understood it about herself. The circles were an attempt to keep Renata still. Movement accelerates pressure buildup. The positioning between mother and children was not aggression. It was management. She was trying to slow down the thing she could smell happening. The thing nobody else in the house could detect. The thing that was going to escalate whether or not anyone understood what it was. Renata came home 9 days later. Nova met her at the door. She walked one slow circle around her feet, stood still, and exhaled. Every guardian deserves to be recognized, even the ones who never asked for anything in return. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe so you never miss the next one. Sophie sat on the floor and put her arms around Nova's neck. Camille said from across the room, "I think she was trying to tell us, Mama." Renata looked at her 7-year-old daughter over the top of the husky's head and said nothing, because nothing she said would have been enough. That night, Nova slept at the foot of the bed for the first time since they had moved her to the floor cushion 3 years ago. Neither Renata nor Dylan moved her. Some permission, once earned, doesn't need to be given twice. Tomorrow, the story of a Labrador who sat outside a closed door for 6 days, and what was happening on the other side of it.